thank you very much for inviting me for this day. And I think listening to the story of Matt, I think I have a very nice continuation for this. Already some of the subjects you talk about are also part of my presentation. A short introduction to my ideas about healthy buildings. Studying in architecture in Copenhagen, at the Art Academy, lots of the classes I had were about aesthetics, shape, and these kind of things, which are also very important for architecture. But one of the things that I remember the most and what stayed with me all these years are the lessons I got from Jan Gehl. Maybe some of you are familiar with Jan Gehl, but he's a very famous urban designer. And his main goal is to put the human scale and the human aspects into designing the environment and the world that we live in. That always stayed with me during my work, and during my career in the Netherlands, I work on a lot of different educational buildings. And I was always wondering, there is no place, I think, in our life or world that we put so many people into so little space for such a long time after each other, which actually has a great impact on the ability to learn how we feel, how we interact with each other. And that's quite a big challenge, designing these buildings. So I was wondering, how can we design these buildings to support the children and the teachers and everybody working in these buildings in the best suitable way to enhance the ability to learn, but also this well-being of the kids. We spend the most of our time indoors, really too much. Maybe COVID changed it a little bit, that we are more encouraged to enjoy the air outside, but around 90% of our time we spend indoors. And it's in all phases of our lives. As a child, also during working hours, but also even when we go to a nursing home at the end of our lives, we spend a lot of time indoors. So this is very important, how we design these spaces. We make these spaces, but afterwards they actually also create us. They have a big deal in how we act, how we interact with each other, and how we deal with the daily situation. As a short example, I would like to show two different schools that our company designed quite some years ago already. I think you can all imagine that these two study spaces have a completely different effect on the students here, and the behavior that they call for when we sit in these spaces will be really different. So it's very important. Now, when we talk about healthy buildings, now there is the sustainable part, of course, healthy for people, but also healthy for the environment, for the world we live in, using as little energy as possible, materials, thinking about reuse of materials, and also, of course, the indoor climate. So creating what we talk about with the of course, a moment ago, but the indoor climate, making us feel as comfortable as possible, enough fresh air, lots of daylight, good acoustics, all these kind of things. Those are the more technical aspects. The Terpijnkazerne, we had a short introduction. Maybe some of you already know it. We designed this building some years ago with great challenges. The existing buildings are old military barracks, which had actually been neglected for many years. We had to make those buildings very sustainable with a BREEAM certificate, excellent, but also the WELL building standard silver certificate. That was a big challenge because we also had to deal with the monumental values of the buildings. How do you put so much air into these existing buildings, but also preserving the cultural heritage, which is very important for this place. Dealing with huge air ducts, putting in the installations in the space that we were given within the within the envelope of the buildings, but also things like making staircases which are suitable for the accessibility of all people, dealing with existing staircases that we also had to keep. So there were a lot of different aspects coming into this project. But also the human aspect of the whole thing. How do we make sure that the students enjoy studying here, that they stay after the lessons to meet each other, to interact, but also the connection to the beautiful surroundings around it is important. Enjoying daylight, but also the green park and connecting to the city around it. That has to do with the human aspect of happiness, which is maybe also when we're talking about hardware and software, I can imagine that is a part of that. Happiness is something we always want to put into the buildings. I was always wondering, how do we do that? Because it's also a little bit of a, you do it on a feeling, kind of. And I wanted to know more about that. How does this work? What kind of aspects are important? To make sure that people feel comfortable, that we have the most optimal environment of our daily life for working or studying and all these things. So I decided to do a study of environmental psychology. This describes the relationship between people and the surroundings. And this goes further indeed than putting the right color on the wall or lots of daylight, but it has to do with the psychological processes in people and how we can make surroundings as stressless as possible, because only when we feel relaxed and comfortable and have no stress, that's when we can be at our best. I want to show you another example. It's a building for the Wageningen University. They study all kind of things about food, environment, all these kind of stuff. They are actually the greenest and most sustainable university in the world. So that's a good example. And in this way, we also implemented a lot of these aspects from the environmental psychology. We started with a more technical part, so all the basic teaching spaces, those are labs, but also lecture halls, for instance. They have lots of fresh air in the insulation system. They have a very high ceiling height, 3.80 meters from floor to ceiling, which is quite extraordinary in a teaching building, at least here in the Netherlands. Lots of windows, views to the beautiful green scenery around. But we also even get into the more practical stuff. So, for instance, in this building, the openable parts in the facade, because you want to have fresh air, that's not the glass windows, but it's the wooden panels in between, which means you can actually put the sun screens, which are, well, it's the light screens, but you can put them down in front of your windows when you want to give a lecture, but you can still open the windows to have fresh air at the same time. So we even look at all these practical things to make sure in the use of the building you have the most optimal surroundings. What they realize at the Wageningen University is that it's not only important that you give information to the students, what do you do with this information and how do you turn this into actual knowledge? And that's important to make a building where people want to stay, where they can meet each other, where they can study together, and where they can go on. So, in the center of the building, we made a big atrium. It's 6 floors high. We wanted to make this the central space for the students to meet. Also showing the identity of the university, what these people are studying for. So, lots of plants integrated in the building, natural materials, lots of wood, and a view to the rest of the campus, which is very green on the outside. The atrium we actually shaped to give as much daylight in the middle of the building as possible. So on the right side of the photo, the terraces are actually stepping back the higher you come in the building, which giving the atrium a V shape, allowing the daylight to go all the way to the bottom of the building. This is kind of the central social place of the whole building. I just talked a little bit about the stress level of people. Lowering the stress level has to do with a lot of different aspects. Feeling safe, giving enough privacy to people, also putting people in control, giving them the feeling that they have a choice to influence the surrounding they are working or studying in, but also crowding, wayfinding, and all these kind of things. But also something like place attachment. It's very important that you have a relation to the place you stay, that you feel comfortable and you feel that you are at home, kind of. That's when you feel the best. So we made these study spaces I showed before, but also some more informal places, lounge places where you can meet and have a coffee, or just in a more informal way when you have a lesson in a laboratory, you can just step out and have a small conversation together. Also at the ground floor at the restaurant area. There are also cultural differences being important when we design healthy buildings, because we must realize that people from all different places of the world are different and they need different things. And what we realize here, they have a lot of foreign students. We all think differently about what is a nice distance, for instance, to a person you know very well or someone who is a complete stranger. All over the world, it's very different. In this case, when we first started with the project, they told us in Wageningen that one of the other buildings they had a traditional Dutch canteen where you can get a bread meal during the lunch. And they realized after a while, every day there would be a kind of food truck parking outside the building. And they were wondering, why is this? And they were selling Chinese food because they have a lot of students from Asia. And they don't enjoy this bread meal. That's not part of the culture and the habits. So they said, we have to facilitate this because it's weird. These people, they have to eat outside and the rest inside doesn't work. So we have a big food hall actually in the ground floor with different stalls, providing food from different cultures and different places in the world. So for everybody there's a nice choice. Also making people feel at home in this building. That also has to do with social differences. When we came the first time, I was wondering about the stickers in the toilets. That's the one with the no and the yes on this one. That also made me realize, we also think really differently about using a building. Also that is very specific. We had lots of discussions about gender-neutral toilets. We also had that in Maastricht with the university. It's a very hot topic. And you have to take care of the needs of all people, also people who don't want to use the gender-neutral toilets. So how did we solve that? One side of the building we have gender-neutral toilets, and the other side we have separate toilets. So for everybody there's a choice. You know whether you're on the second floor, on the third floor, you can always find the right place to go. Another thing helping us to feel comfortable and without stress is a good wayfinding. That starts with the general organization of the building. In this building there are almost no closed hallways. They are all around the central atrium, so no matter where you move around in the building, you can always have a look to the atrium. You know where you are. We put the coffee machines on the same place on every floor. You can always find your way in the building. You will never get lost. And we made a big visible stair in the middle of the building, which is the first thing you see when you enter the building. It's connected directly to the bike parking in the basement, which means you can actually cycle underneath the building, take the big stairs, and you can walk up. And actually only when you go to one of the top floors you are allowed to take the elevator. It's blocked for the lower floors, and we put the elevators all the way in the back, so you have to search a little bit to find them. Encouraging people to walk around and also meet more in the building.